Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Ruhi Safawi, and I am a member of this Noida Express Shia group. I'm also an entrepreneur running a boutique for customized clothing for women in Noida. This is the first time this Noida Express Shia group is participating in this international webinar, and I'm very happy to welcome all of you at this platform. We are Noida Expressway Shia Group is jointly organizing this, and I would like to name all the other organizations, that is Cultural House, Embassy of Islamic Republic Iran, General Directorate of Cultural Cooperation and Iranian Overseas Affairs, Center for Peace and Spirituality International, and Noida Expressway Shia Group Women. The topic for today's discussion is the role of women in the formation of a moral society, obviously based on Hzt Fatema Zahra's Islam. It is an honor to introduce the first speaker, Dr. Mohammad Rabbani. He is a cultural counselor at the Embassy of Islamic Republic Iran. First of all, I want to thank you, sir, for your valuable time and support. Please, welcome, sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I express my thanks and kind appreciation to all the Iranian and Indian professors, panelists, and viewers of the international webinar on the role of women in the formation of moral society based on Hzt Fatema Zahra teaching, being organized in collaboration with General Director of Cultural Corporations and the Iranian Overseas Affairs, CPS International, and NEST Women's Wing. On the occasion of 43rd anniversary of the victory of Islamic Revolution, and we encourage the memory and contribution of late spiritual leader Imam Khomeini, rahmatullah alayh, the founder of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and all the martyrs of the Islamic Revolution. Society with morality is one of the most essential and most important concepts that has always been the concern of human beings and was considered the main pillar of the missions of all divine prophets. It is the sense that a human being need it, whether he is a believer or non-believer. Every society, religions or non-religions, need a set of moral principles and rules. The prevalence of morality in a society is a symbol of the health or diseases of the society, and the less morality in a society, the more likely it is to collapse. One of the worst crises that human beings have faced throughout the human history is the moral crisis. And one of the major factors of the evolution and progress of societies is the ethical merits. The and efficient solution to the all challenges, including economic challenges, crises, because by observing the principle and values defined in human relations in the society with morality, many crises could be stopped to get emerged. As philosophers of ethics believe that the most important role of ethics is that it led us to happy life, and wherever ethic real legal tools will be get lesser role to ensure peace in society. Another important point is about public responsibility in the formation of a moral society. The responsibility for moralistic society lies not solely with the prophets and government. Rather, the main responsibility for the formation of the moral society should be sought in the family educational system. Therefore, the role of woman and the mother as a sole pillar of the family is important because the first step in the formation of a moral society, it happened at home and in the lap of mothers, because society is composed of separated individuals and personalities, each of which has a definite and limited impact on the environment. Part of the moral life of society is a reflection of the spiritual life formed in the family environment. Throughout history, women have competently proven their worth in various fields. Another is that human beings always need role model to form a moral society. Women's spiritual temperament and responsibilities, it is necessity for women of their own gender to have a model in order to follow the moral and family manners and customs in terms of accepting the model and clarifying the example of role model. In this world, the Prophet Muhammad considered Fatema Zahra as his own existence and say many times among the believers, Fatema is a part of my body. The existence of Fatema is not separated from the existence of the Prophet, and her biography is another manifestation of biography of Prophet Muhammad. So Fatema is continuation of the past and biography of the Prophet وسلم, in all fields, including serving God, piety and the worship, hijab, and chastity, etc. But what has affected him more in the short life of the Imam for the special role model of woman is the character of the Imam in the field of family, marriage, and raising children. Hzt Fatema Salamullah alayh is the best woman in the world, as mentioned as Sayyid al-Nisa al-Alameen, is from the creation of man to the end of the world, which express the degree of their faith. The most important way to achieve that, it is the Islamic hijab and cultural freedom for women as the roots of chastity or strengthening the human soul. Surely their view of moral virtue deepen and they avoid moral risks. One of the moral virtues of chastity is that this moral principle has direct control over the hijab. Coverage is a dimension and an era of chastity, and they are closely related to each other and affect each other. Behavioral and moral teaching of Hzt Fatema Zahra during their short life are the best lesson for achieving worldly happiness and hereafter suitable for building a moral society. She, with lessons in the field of faith and sanctity, simple life, and aestheticism, self-sacrifice, justice, hijab, and chastity, honesty, politeness, or orbital guardianship, and playing the role of an exemplary daughter and wife has guided mankind in all aspects of life. But what has affected her more in the short life of the mama for the special role of mothers of women is the care of family and children's upbringings. I'm pretty confirmed that today's program and the discussion of present by Iranian and Indian speaker can be useful and helpful in explaining the role of the woman in shaping the moral society, which is still most relevant necessity of human society even today. Thank you all once again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you so much, sir. Your presence and wise words will surely help magnify our cause. But I just want to, you will agree with me, Dr. Rabbani, in this today modern world, the time spent by parents, by a mother and father, are same equal time they've spent with their children, because in today's world, even mothers are working. So the time spent by mothers and fathers, I think so, is almost the same. So it's, I feel, it is just my personal opinion, I feel that moral values and to the children, not only mother, but even father has to help. Now we move to our next speaker. May I present Professor Farida Khanum? She's a chairperson at the Center for Peace and Spirituality International. Ma'am, first of all, I would like to welcome you on this platform.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So first of all, I would like to introduce our organization, CPS International, and then I'll speak on Hzt Fatema Zahra. Is that okay? So respected Dr. Mohammad Ali Rabbani, dear ladies, so CPS International Center for Peace and Spirituality was founded by Maulana Wahiduddin Khan, a world-renowned Islamic scholar. This was founded in January 2001 in New Delhi, under the patronage of its founder and inspired by his spiritual wisdom. The center is trying to re-engineer individual minds towards peace and positivity. CPS is a non-profit, non-political, and non-governmental organization. It was Maulana's dream to see that the original teaching of Islam as a universal religion based on the principle of peace and spirituality be presented to all humanity. CPS aims to promote and reinforce the culture of peace and spirituality. According to Maulana, peace and spirituality are two aspects of the same truth. Positive thinking at an individual level is called spirituality, whereas positive thinking at a collective level culminates in peace in society. Maulana has been confirmed with Padma Vibhushan by the Government of India in 2021 for his contribution to the field of spirituality. Maulana's writings have played a great role in enlightening people about the peaceful ideas of Islam, promoting positive thinking in the Muslim community, motivating to work towards nation building, and most importantly, to understand the purpose and meaning of life beyond. He has devoted his entire life to the cause of peace. He once said, "I want to live in peace and I want to die in peace." The idea that he has developed from the Quran and the life of the Prophet Muhammad has provided spiritual principles to help in avoiding conflicts, resolving controversies, and turning opponents into friends. CPS International has chapters all over India and across the world. Another of Maulana's very important contribution has been an English translation of the Quran. This translation has become widely popular because it is contemporary and it is in an understandable language. His commentary of the Quran urges the reader to reflect on the purpose of existence, to discover one's creator, to purify one's character, and to prepare for life after death. The Maulana has authored more than 200 books on Islam, spirituality, prophetic wisdom, and the relevance of religion in our lives as a source of spiritual wisdom. Some of his famous books are The Prophet of Peace, The True Jihad, Islam Rediscovered, God Arises, Quranic Wisdom, Prophet of Revolution, Purpose of Creation, Woman Between Islam and Western Society, Leading a Spiritual Life. Goodword Books and CPS International are spreading the peaceful message of the Quran worldwide. People all over the world are volunteering to become Quran distribution. So far, 7 million printed copies of the Quran in 30 languages have been distributed by Goodword and CPS International. Now, this is very relevant because we are working for peace and spirituality, and Hzt Fatema Zahra's life and the whole of her spirit, she had a spiritual personality. So I just fell in love with Hzt Fatema Zahra while I was reading about her. I read a lot about her, and I just liked her persona and how she led such a spiritual life. She loved Prophet Muhammad, and she went through all the difficult situations, because in those days it was the days of religious persecution, and times she suffered great hardship, but she bore every hardship with great calm and solitude. She was very, very spiritual. So Hzt Fatema Zahra occupies a similar position in Islam that Mary, mother of Jesus, occupies in Christianity. Hzt Fatema was dearest to Prophet Muhammad. He regarded her and her mother as the most outstanding women of all time. She exemplifies compassion, generosity, and enduring suffering with fortitude. She is regarded as the embodiment of selfless devotion. Hzt Fatema Zahra was trained by the Prophet himself, for she had lost her mother in childhood. She learned to recite the Quran from the Prophet. He taught her how to say her prayers. He instructed her in religion, wisdom, and moral values. After the death of Hazrat Khadija and Abu Talib, she suffered from great hardship. The Quraysh persecuted the Muslims and abused the Prophet. She spent her life in solitude, praying for the times to change and helping her father. So the period, the most difficult time was the period of boycott. Hazrat Khadija and Abu Talib both could not bear the brunt of these difficult times, and after they came out of this miserable condition. So Hazrat Khadija's health deteriorated, and Hazrat Abu Talib also, they soon left this world, and Hazrat Fatima was left all alone. Now, after the death of Abu Talib and Hazrat Khadija, the enemies became all the more hostile. She did all she could to give comfort to the Prophet. Once Hazrat Aisha observed, Ali among men and Fatima among women were dearer to the Prophet than any other person. She also added, I have not seen anyone more truthful than Fatima and her father. Hazrat Fatima did not attain her position simply because she possessed sterling qualities of sacrifice, courage, piety, wisdom, and other human
English, please,
values
please.
earned earned her this position. Many companions of the Prophet wanted to marry her, but the Prophet did not approve any of these proposals. It was only when Hazrat Ali proposed that the Prophet gave his approval. Hazrat Ali had no money to pay Mahr, bridal gift. Therefore, Prophet asked him to sell his shield for this purpose. This modest marriage ceremony took place in the year 1 or 2 AH. Hazrat Fatima's age was about 19, while Hazrat Ali's was about 22. The Prophet himself performed the wedding ceremony. After the ceremony, the Prophet told Hazrat Fatima, I have married you to someone who is dearest to me. Hazrat Fatima and Hazrat Ali led a humble life. They endured financial hardship without any complaint. In the early years of Islam, Fatima was responsible for the domestic chores. She took everything in her stride without ever complaining about anything. Hazrat Ali once said, whenever I looked at her, all my worries and sadness disappeared. Following the battle of Uhud, Hazrat Fatima tended to the wounds of her father and her husband. She regularly visited the graves of those killed in the battle to pray to them, to pray for them. After Prophet's death in 11 AH, Hazrat Fatima was so saddened that she died within 6 months of her father's death. She was about 27 years old at that time. Hazrat Fatima was very dear to the Prophet. Once Prophet observed, Fatima is part of me. Hazrat Fatima was held to be one of the outstanding ladies in human history. Khadija, Asiya, and Mary. Whenever Hazrat Fatima arrived, Prophet ﷺ stood up, greeted her, and asked her to sit next to him. The Prophet held that Fatima would be the first person to enter paradise. Fatima is also venerated by all Muslims for being an embodiment of compassion, generosity, and patience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Farida Khanum, for your enlightening speech. And your Center for Peace and Spirituality International is doing an amazing work. Mashallah, I wish you all the best for it. I would like to introduce Mansha Kazmi. She is the co-founder and coordinator of Noida Expressway Shia Group Women. I know her personally. She is an interior designer by profession. She designs and publishes our group monthly magazine, among many other initiatives she takes for our group. We are really grateful for all the effort that she takes. Mansha Kazmi.
Thank you so much, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. Allah, the blessed and exalted, has created many such personalities in Islam for the benefit and guidance of humanity in all respects. Among them is Hzt Fatema Zahra, the leader of all women in this world and in paradise, in whom all traits of a true human being are perfectly reflected. She was a complete woman, a role model daughter, wife, mother, mentor, social worker, helper and supporter of needy, and a true follower of Islam. It is high time for molding our lives and societies through understanding the life lived by Hzt Fatema Zahra, following her footsteps and learning from her extraordinary attributes. And today, we come together on this virtual platform to talk about how Hzt Fatema Zahra's teachings have played an important role for women in the formation of a moral society. Welcome. My name is Mansha Kazmin. I'm here to introduce our women's group, Noida Expressway Shia Group from Delhi NCR, India. In 2016, we founded the group when we realized the need to stay connected with other ladies in our community. As we saw that with the changing times, the level of real physical interaction between community members seemed to be going down. With that in mind, we set up the Noida Expressway Shia Group as a platform to not only interact socially, but also to mark, organize, and commemorate important religious occasions on a regular basis. We have so far organized more than 100 physical and virtual programs for social and religious causes over the last 3 years. Programs like majalis, milads, ujashns, speeches, lectures by Zakiras, doctors, scholars, as well as for social causes like fundraising for education, for medical needs, and or helping the needy in COVID times, to name a few. We also encourage our young members to participate in our group activities, which can help them develop a better understanding of a religion, learn about the lives and teachings of our Elohim, and try to become a better version of themselves. In all, this group strikes a wonderful balance and serves its member and community at large with humility and care. Before I conclude, I want to say that it's a great honor to be part of this webinar on Janabe Fatema Zahra, a perfect role model for modern women. It is important for us to remember the many lessons she left for us to live by and learn from. And the best way to keep her memory alive and in our hearts is to uphold the beautiful ways of life through charity, honesty, patience, praying for others. And this is what we, ladies of Noida Expressway Shia Group, try to keep as a driving principle. I end it here with a beautiful quote which says, "Not a single photo of Fatema Zahra exists, yet she is in the mind and hearts of billions. Let your mind change the world, not your body." Thank you so much.
Beautiful quote, Mansha, and very true, very true. Noida Expressway is blessed to have you we all members are blessed to have you as a co-founder, and you are doing an amazing work, Mansha. Mashallah, say all the
Thank you
best,
so much.
keep doing it, and we continue doing our good work, inshallah.
Thank you so much.
Now, I would like to introduce Professor Zahra Sadat Mirhashmi. She is the chairperson of the Department of Islamic Law at Al-Zahra University, Iran. Ma'am, it is an honor to have you between us today, Professor Zahra Sadat.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim wa bihi nasta'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I thank Allah that this opportunity has been given to me by the culture advisor of the Islamic Republic of Iran in India and Women's Field of Islamic Culture and Communication Organization. And I'm glad that I'm present among you intellectual and elevated, and I want to talk about the moral models of the life of Hzt Fatema, daughter of Prophet Mohammad, peace be upon him, in strength the family system. Let's think about this for a few minutes. Islam is the great religion of morality. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him, stated that the purpose of his mission was to complete this moral virtue. Moral teachings derived from religion and combining them with a spiritual and legal support in the context of the family cause the members of this sacred institution to have a spiritual growth and development in a favorable environment and achieve happiness. On the other hand, one of the most important methods of education is the modeling method. Islam has emphasized this important principle for the education and excellence of human being, because the personality of the model leaves a great impact on the formation of the behavior of the trainee. For this reason, the Holy Quran has set the correct patterns and ordered them to be followed. The Holy Quran has introduced the Holy Prophet of Mohammad, peace be upon him, and his family as a worthy model and a good example for the believers. But women should have a role model of their own gender in order to follow the moral and family manners and customs in terms of accepting the role model and clarifying the examples of role modeling. In his speeches, the Prophet, peace be upon him, considered Fatima Zahra, peace be upon her, as his own existence, and said many times among the believers that Fatima Zahra, peace be upon her, is a part of my body. The existence of Zahra is not separated from the existence of the messenger of God, and her life is another manifestation of the life of the Prophet. But what has become more common in his or in her short life for the special role models of women is her character in the field of family and marriage and raising children. We try to express the combination of morality and law in a complete religious family by examining their lifestyle and manners, inshallah. As a first step in my discussion, I will address the issue of the relationship between morality and family. It is clear that the relationship between morality and the family is a completely direct and necessary relationship. In general, the stability of families is the result of the moral commitment of its members and the avoidance of perversion. And the second step of the discussion that is very important is background of the relationship between ethics and law in the family. It is well known that morality is one of the most important building blocks of law, and morality permits the law. As a result, moral rules lead to law, but unfortunately, not all moral rules lead to law, and not all legal rules conform to moral rules. If we take morality away from law, we have taken away beauty and tenderness, and we have obeyed only by force and authority. And on the other hand, the ethics of the duty does not make it obligatory, but it supervises the good and bad, but law has a guarantee of execution. Now, it's time to get to the heart of the matter, inshallah. Means ethics in the biography of Fatima Zahra, peace be upon her. There is little we can speak about the moral virtues of the great lady of Islam, and all of her actions and words are moral principles and models. Since the purpose of this speech is to study in the field of family, so we will only explain the ethics in the family in the life of Hzt Fatema Zahra, peace be upon her. Looking at the life of Hzt Fatema Zahra, we find that during her blessed life, she has always required herself to fulfill the rights of others by observing moral standards in such a way that she considered morality as the rule of law and tried to do so. She wants to realize the rights of others by observing the same moral standards. If we develop this kind of attitude in the family, it will cause the small family to become a safe haven for all its members. The following are some of the cases that can cause the esprit of this style and beautiful look in the family in the life of Hzt Fatema Zahra, peace be upon her. Number 1, surrender to God is the basis of morality in the family. Although serving at home is not the duty of the lady of the house according to the jurisprudential rules of Islamic law, but serving at home is considered worship in terms of the morality of religion. Consequently, from a moral point of view, serving at home is a great moral value, and one will be able to understand this moral value if one has true knowledge of the Lord and his God and submits to the will of God. Hzt Fatema Zahra, peace be upon her, was like this. Even in the final decision of marry Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, peace be upon him, they considered the pleasure of God. Number 2, division of family affairs by the Prophet, peace be upon him, and another issue in the life of Hzt Fatema Zahra, peace be upon her, which was formed on the basis of morality and the rule of morality on the rules of jurisprudence, is the division of the affairs of their life together. We have narrations that the Prophet, peace be upon him, divided the affairs of life between Hzt Fatema Zahra and Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, and left the affairs of the house to Hzt Fatema Zahra and the affairs outside the house to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. And the two nobles accepted this division. It is so famous that one day the Prophet, peace be upon him, saw Hzt Zahra wearing a raw and worthless shirt and grinding by hand while breastfeeding her child. The Prophet, while shedding tears, said, "My daughter, endure the hardships of this world in order to achieve the sweetness of the hereafter." Hzt Fatema Zahra said, O Messenger of God, praise be to God for His infinite blessings. On this occasion, this noble verse was revealed to the Holy Prophet. Your Lord gives you enough to please. وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى. We can conclude that division of life between these two nobles is entirely based on morality, and not that it has been explicitly legislated for it. As a result, it is morality that has taken into account the rights of individuals in the family and has caused, for example, in these cases, only one spouse does not suffer and does not bear the heavy burden of responsibility alone. Number 3 is sacrifice, forgiveness, and waiver of one's rights. Sacrifice and forgiveness in the family is the most prominent point of the lady's family ethics. In order to continue the happiness of the family, the Lady Fatema Zahra always put another before herself and gave up her rights. Like the day when Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, peace be upon him, asked her, why did not she inform him of the suffering of hunger and lack of food in her house? Hzt Fatema Zahra, peace be upon her, replied, I'm ashamed of my God to give you a task that you are not able to do. On the same occasion, she said to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, I gave you priority over myself and my children Hasanain, peace be upon them, and I gave you the amount of food that was at home. You know, according to the sources of Islamic jurisprudential rules, the husband is obliged to provide alimony for the wife. She demonstrated the principle of compatibility with the conditions governing the family and the spouse, which is contrary to the laws and rules of law and jurisprudence, such as the obligation to provide alimony for the wife by the husband. And this compatibility and unity between her and Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib has been a life lesson for all of us. Certainly, the continuation of such a rule of moral rules in the family requires the other party to understand this self-sacrifice and appreciate her wife and even children. Number 4, obedience to the spouse and paying attention to the spiritual rights of the spouse. It is stated in many narrations that a women's jihad is marrying well. Hzt Fatema Zahra, peace be upon her, have been successful in achieving this. If you think carefully about the following, you will realize this. In the illness that led to her death, she said to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib that cousin never found me a liar or a traitor, and I have not opposed you since the day I associated with you. This expresses their moral virtues because it is obeyed the duties of a woman towards her husband, and it is not obligatory for a woman to always agree with her husband in matters that are not obligatory to obey her husband. Of course, based on the documents, it is evident that Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, by understanding this moral virtue, respect and loved Hzt Fatema Zahra, peace be upon her, and was aware of his high status and respect. The lady politely observed her husband's spiritual rights, that is expressing heartfelt affection, and always addressed him with kind words such as, Ya Abul Hasan, my life is your sacrifice, and my soul and spirit is the shield of your soul. روحي لروحك الفداء ونفسي لنفسك الوقاء يا أبا الحسن. Number 5 is the role of ethics in raising children in the life of Hzt Zahra, peace be upon her, that we will skip this due to time constraints. And number 6, respect for the parents. Today one of the crises of humanity is the crisis of respect for parents. The love, affection, attention, and self-sacrifice of Hzt Fatema Zahra, peace be upon her, towards her noble father in hardships is an example of his moral virtues and respect for his parents, which in many cases goes beyond his legal duty. So as the last word, I say reading the relationship between ethics and rights in the field of family based on the life of Hzt Fatema Zahra, peace be upon her. What is important is that morality should take precedence, and in the shadow of ethics, respect for the rights of other family members is created. Thank you for attention. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you, Professor Zahra, Sadat, Mirhashmi. Very beautifully explained the rule of morality. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce Professor Azra Abidi. She is a sociology professor at Jamia Millia Islamia University, New Delhi. We are honored by your presence here, ma'am. The Professor Azra Abidi.
Thank you so much. Respected Dr. Rabbani, Cultural Counselor of Islamic Republic of Iran, Professor Farida Khanum Sahiba, Professor Zahra Sadat, Professor Hakimeh, Muhtarma Firdaus Jahan Sahiba, Sabine Rizvi Sahiba, Alina Naqvi Sahiba, Mansha Kazmi Sahiba, and Ruhi Safavi, and dear participants. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, I thank all the organizers of this international webinar to provide me this opportunity to share my views from this platform. I will give a PowerPoint presentation with the title Contribution of Hzt Fatema Zahra in the Formation of a Moral Society. So here I will try to discuss on the need of morality, which is a requirement of time, and I will give this interpretation, and all the discussion will be focused on Islamic perspective. Whatever mentioned by Islam and the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad, in the sayings of Prophet Muhammad, I will try to cover that point, as well as in the beginning I will give the meaning of this moral society, what is Western interpretation of morality, and how Islam deals this complicated term, and how Islam has given the broad idea to understand the morality and its necessity in a society. So this is basically about my presentation, and meanwhile I will also discuss the contribution of Hzt Fatema Zahra and her teachings with reference to establishment of a moral society, which is very much a requirement of the time as well. So I will share my PPT on the screen as well. Please allow me to screen sharing.
Yes, you are allowed. I have made you co-host.
Okay. I am doing it. The topic for my PowerPoint presentation is contribution of Hzt Fatema Zahra Salamullah Alaiha in the formation of a moral society. I am audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Can you all see?
Yes, Baji, we all can see.
Okay, thank you. So how can share, Roshni? How can I share? Okay, morality plays very important role in our life, which maximize happiness, seen by achieving the existence of happy and joyful life of all human beings. Facts, morals, and the rules which people use to guide their behavior, and when we are dealing with or capable of distinguishing between right or wrong. The moral values such as truth, freedom, honesty, fairness, kindness, politeness, respect, virtues, integrity, to know about our duties, charity, compassion, have one thing in common: when they are functioning correctly, they are enhancing for us. According to Islam, whatever leads to welfare of individual or society is morally good, and whatever is injurious is morally bad. The concept of ethics or morality has been the foundation of an Islamic society. Islamic ethics prescribe its followers to guard their behavior, words, thoughts, and intentions, and observe certain norms and moral codes in their family affairs, in dealing with relatives, neighbors, and friends, in public life. The unique feature of the Islamic ethical system is that it permeates all spheres and fields of human life. Next. Slide show कर देते. The daughter of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hzt Fatema Zahra, is role model for all women. She is a symbol of virtue, pity, charity, humility, and sacrifice in all her roles, whether it is the role of the daughter of Prophet of Islam, the role of wife of Hazrat Ali, or the role of mother. In all her roles, there is purity, sincerity, dedication, and commitment. Hzt Fatema Zahra is a female created by Allah to be a sign of his marvelous and unprecedented might. For the Almighty Lord created Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a sign of his might among prophets, and created from him his daughter Fatema Zahra to be a sign of his ability to create a female possessing all moral excellence and talents. She is one of the prominent people close to Allah, whose greatness was acknowledged by heaven before the creation of mankind, and whose regard verses from the Quran that are and will be read day and night until the day of resurrection were revealed. Prophet Muhammad would stand up from the bed and give her his place whenever she came into the room. Moreover, he would also lay his shawl at the place where she was to sit. Prophet Muhammad said, Fatima is a part of me, and he who makes her angry makes me angry. Therefore, if a Muslim woman is looking for a role model who lived her life in modesty and made the best of it, this staying within her means, then the life of Hzt Fatema is an excellent example for them. In an Islamic society, women can fulfill several individual and collective responsibilities in different spheres and under different conditions. Hzt Fatema Zahra contributed a lot in the formation of a moral society during the time of Jahiliyyah. Fatema Zahra's life is a good example to understand the morals and the things we can learn from her life. Her major contribution in the formation of a moral society may be discussed as follows. And here I have distributed different important pillars, which is important components for the formation of a moral society. We can easily understand that in what way Hzt Fatema Zahra contributed in different spheres of life, which is a part of which is requirement for a moral society. For example, Hzt Fatema Zahra and charity. Charity is a good quality for all human beings. And here we are looking, this charity is also very much discussed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran, and that was in the practice of Ahlul Bayt Atahar, Ahl Bayt Atahar as well. So the first pillar to the formation of a moral society is charity by the human beings. Here I am coming to the contribution of Hzt Fatema Zahra. She believes that spending wealth for others, especially for the needy, and helping people are a fundamental duty for them. And these things earn God's mercy and reward in the afterlife. The Quran says that the righteous are those people who fulfill their promises and feed the needy, the orphans, and the captive for the love of God. At another place in Quran, Allah says, those who spend their goods by night and by day in secret and in public have their reward with their Lord. On them shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve. Fatema Zahra was charitable and too kind to the poor and the deprived. She cooked food for her poor neighbors who were unable to do that. She carried water to her weak neighbors who could not get water. Forgiveness is another important pillar of a moral society, and here I am looking the contribution of Hzt Fatema Zahra as a virtue. Forgiveness is much celebrated in Islam and is regarded as an important Muslim practice inspired by both the Quran and the Sunnah. The issue of forgiveness can take on two different forms: God's forgiveness for human beings for their sins, and forgiveness among fellow human beings for each other. To forgive a person who has done moral offense, and his daughter Hzt Fatema Zahra showed us an example of how to live a social life with tolerance. Honesty is another pillar that is important in the formation of a moral society. So I am looking here the role of Hzt Fatema Zahra and her contribution with reference to honesty. In Islam, honesty implies maintaining sincerity and truthfulness in actions, interactions, and transactions. And the issue of honesty touches almost all aspects of human life. Prophet Muhammad, who is known as Amin and Sadiq, even among the pagans of Makkah, not only Prophet, his daughter Fatema Zahra is a prime example of his quality like honesty. She is also known as Siddiqa Tahira. She has passed on these qualities from Prophet Muhammad to her family and followers. We, being a follower of Hzt Fatema Zahra, have to follow the path of honesty to establish a moral society. Kindness. Among the 99 names of Allah in Islam, the most common and famous are the compassionate, Ar-Rahman, and the merciful, Ar-Rahim. The Quran says, verily, Allah is kind and merciful to the people. Numerous sayings of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam tell the Muslims to be kind and merciful to the creatures of God. Hzt Fatema Zahra has been described as being kind and compassionate to people and animals. Her life is a good example to understand the idea of kindness necessary to form a moral society. An example to show her kindness is when Janabi Fizza used to come her house as a helper. Hzt Fatema Zahra used to make her work only on alternate days and the rest days she worked herself. Also, she was never harsh on her. Another example of her kindness may be given through the incident when she gave her loo for 3 days to the needy people along with her family members, even when she and her family were fasting. Justice or adl. The Quran used the word adl and mizan in referring to justice. Its meaning is thus a combination of moral and social values denoting fairness, balance, temperance, and straightforwardness. In Islam, justice is not only a moral virtue, but also an obligation to be fulfilled under the circumstances. The Quran, at its 200 places, warns people against injustice, and at its 100 places, directs people to establishing justice. Hzt Fatema has shown the real Islamic meaning of justice or adl through her life, like when she distributed her work with Janab Fizza, or when she helped the needy people of Makkah and Medina. Apart from this, in her marital life, she also performed adl with her children and husband Hazrat Ali. Fulfillment of promise. In Islamic Sharia, fulfilling a contract is regarded as compulsory and is one of the 3 qualities necessary for becoming a true Muslim. In Islamic tradition, fulfillment of promises has some other dimensions. Hzt Fatema Zahra is also known as Khatun-e Mahshar. She has never broke her promises to the needy people and provided them with food, clothes, and other necessities. Even when she had nothing, she promised her followers that she will do shafaat for them and allow them to enter in the paradise on the day of judgment. Modesty, humility, and decent speech. And dear audience, I feel this is the very important aspect I am going to share with all of you, because decent speech is also a pillar of moral society, and that was very much highlighted by Ahle Bayt Athhar, and they have mainly focused on decent speech, humility, and modesty as well, especially when we are talking about Hzt Fatema Zahra and her life. Every religion has its characteristics, and the characteristics of Islam is modesty or haya. Islam has strongly emphasized the concept of decency and modesty. Here, modesty is seen no less important in speech and behavior than in dressing. Again, modesty has a dual aspect in Islam. Modesty is to be maintained in public, which is generally related to people, as well as in private, which is related to God. Hzt Fatema also expects that a Muslim will be polite in his or her behavior with others. Display of anger, indecent behavior, or indecent exposure of body parts are highly discouraged. Hzt Fatema Zahra is defined as being modest and respectful. The prophetic narrations and Muhammad's own examples of simplicity and humbleness inspired her to practice humility in her life. She was rare for her to engage in argument with others. It was rare for her to laugh in a loud voice. Rather, she preferred soft smiling. She passed on all these moral values to her children and family. Hzt Fatema says to her followers to maintain decency in speech, and misuse of tongue has been admonished. Excessive or absurd talking or useless gossiping is generally discouraged. She encouraged decent and gentle speech, as it is seen both as a virtue and as a means of cultivating goodness among people. Patience or sabr. The issue of patience is of special interest in Islam. Islamic tradition holds that God has made this world a testing ground for mankind, especially for the believers, and that the sincerity and the strength of their faith will be judged through various trials. Hzt Fatema Zahra says that patience is one of the moral qualities which Islam considered necessary for a Muslim and Muslimah in order to keep away from evil doings and in broader sense to protect their faith and society. Anger management comes as an important issue in Islamic tradition, as anger is seen to destroy human conscience and to become the cause of many evils. and violent activities. Anger is considered one of the characteristic features of pre-Islamic period, a period known as age of ignorance. Hzt Fatema Zahra believed that controlling anger is seen as a virtue and a sign of righteous person. Prophet Muhammad also suggested several anger management methods. So I'm not going to discuss all in the detail about the anger management method, but that was also suggested by Prophet Muhammad to control the anger as well. Hzt Fatema Zahra elder son Imam Hassan also set a very good example in his life. When a man continuously said bad words to him, and when he got tired to speaking, Imam Hassan offered him with water, food, and was gentle towards him. As a result, the man cried and thanked Imam for his generosity. That was the teaching of his mother, Hzt Fatema Zahra. Here we can understand the importance of anger management in the formation of a moral society. Sincerity, Hzt Fatema Zahra felt that sincerity of intention determines the significance of any act. That is to say, the value of any act depends on the motivation behind the act, not on the act itself. Hzt Fatema Zahra never complained her economical crisis or do not ask her father or husband for anything in her entire life. She was happy and thankful with whatever Allah has given to her. To make a society better, to make our lives better, morality is in present time is very much required. And in the absence of moral values, our own lives and the lives of our families and friends would be miserable. Moral values are the building blocks of personality that help in building the better character of people. It is absolutely important to teach moral values in society because morality is a strong pillar of any society. So I would like to conclude with these words that Hzt Fatema Zahra played a key role in the spreading of teachings of Islam. She is a role model for all the women because she spent her life in a simple manner. She gave the message to all the women through her life and teaching. They can learn and create a moral society. So it is in the hand of women as well to create, to form a moral society. And this comes through the teachings of Hzt Fatema Zahra, Salamullah alaiha as well. According to Islam, whatever leads to welfare of the individual or society is morally good, and whatever is injurious is morally bad. And this is the message of Islam. This is the essence of Islam, which says about to maintain morality in society as well. We have to remember this and move forward to establish a society where ethics or morality are the foundations, while remembering the teaching of Hzt Fatema Zahra, Salamullah alaiha. Thank you so much to give me this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Azra Baji. Thank you so much. It is always a pleasure. It is always a pleasure hearing your thoughts. And I'm sure your wise words will surely help magnify the cause, what we are looking for, inshallah. Now, I am very delighted to introduce Alina Zaidi. She is the founder and the coordinator of Noida Expressway Shia Group Women. Her dedication and contribution has helped this group grow and make an impact in the community. Alina is also a poet and author, and today she will be reciting a poem on Janabe Sayyida al-Islam. Alina Zaidi.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm going to recite a poem on Janabe Fatema al-Zahra. Iran Culture House and Noida Expressway and 2 other groups have given me this opportunity. I'm very thankful to all these 4 esteemed organizations. This is a poem written by me, and this poem is also published in Instagram. The name of poem is Janabe Fatema al-Zahra Qualities. Her mother was queen of Arabs, but she never liked a life of ease and luxury. She always made her character exemplary. Her respected father had universal authority, and she was only daughter. And all life long tolerated pain, hardships, and was always strong, commander of the faithful. But containment made it the honor of her husband and generosity. She is the unit who gave birth to two imams, and imamas remain established in her for posterity. Thank you so much.
Beautiful poem, Alina. Beautiful poem. What a way of describing Janabi Said. A beautiful poem. Here now, I'm introducing Dr. Sabeen Rizvi. She is an associate professor of psychology at Gargi College, University of Delhi. Sabeen also runs her own consulting practice, and she is a very esteemed member of this Noida Expressway Shia group. Dr. Sabeen Rizvi. It's always a pleasure listening to you, Sabeen.
Thank you so much. Really grateful to Noida Expressway Shia Women's Group and Iran Culture House for having invited me. A little unwell, just recovering from COVID, so my throat is bad. So apologies if I'm not audible and clear. Our esteemed guests, my esteemed colleagues from different parts of the world, they have really contributed in terms of how Janabi Fatma Zahra's contribution has been in creating a blueprint for all of us in looking at a moral society. My lens is primarily psychological in nature. I'm a psychologist by I'm a psychologist by training, and that is how I try looking at things. So not a religious scholar, not a theologist. So I'm not going to be taking that lens, but whatever little that I know about her esteemed life, and even the way, even after her passing away, how her life has continued to be impacting all of us, not just a role model for women or Shia women in general, but a role model for all of us in terms of exemplary behavioristic examples that she has brought forth. I think Professor Abida was talking about that, how from her own life instances where she has brought forth examples that how you are to behave with other people, how you have to treat other people, how despite being who she was, what a life of humility she led. And if you look at her titles, I mean, she had more than 100 titles that were bestowed upon her, different sources, of course. But if we just go through a list of titles, some of them, Al-Zahra, which means the luminous, the one who shines bright, Azra, who's chaste, who's pure, who's free of all the vices. If we look at Al-Tahira, again pure, somebody who's a pure soul. Maryam al-Kubra, I think Professor Abdi was also talking about it, that the great Maryam in Islam. Al-Radhiya, who's content with God's will. So just looking at few of these titles just makes me wonder that our contribution to establishing a moral society can be taking examples from her life, and being, of course, we cannot be like her, but at least try to contribute to a society that is more in sync with the kind of vision she had for all of us. So just treating our house helps kindly, a little more kindly if possible. We have so many people who are working under us, who are working for us. If we can be more compassionate, if we can develop a more empathetic understanding towards the context of people who serve us, who work with us, that would be a good tribute from our side to contributing to a moralistic society. Then looking at people who are younger than us, how we are treating our children, how we are treating our youth, how we are treating our elders, I think that goes a long way in again exemplifying that what contributions we can make on the, if we are calling ourselves followers of such an esteemed person, then what is it that we are doing to make life meaningful for others? What is it that we are doing to add something to the lives of others, so that, you know, when you call yourself Shia, when you call yourself a follower of Bibi Fatima Zahra, what is it that is being exemplified from your behavior? Because a lot of times these examples, they again tell other people that, you know, I met somebody from a new community, I had never interacted with a Shia Muslim before or a Muslim before, but their behaviors were such that I was so impressed. So I think those exemplary ways, if we can intertwine in our day-to-day living, if we can start leading our children by these small little examples. I understand we are living in a progressive world, in a contemporary world. There's so much of competition, but there's no reason why we cannot be as progressive as we have been, inculcating the same values, passing on the same values intergenerationally as well. Reading them stories from again, religious textbooks that are going to make life and living easier for them, understanding that it may not require very heavy jargon for them to understand, but small behavioristic examples, how they would treat other people, how they again, communicated with their neighbors, how respectful they were when they were communicating with people outside the community as well. So it seems to me that these examples are good for us if we are able to pass them intergenerationally as well. And at the end of it all, keep thinking about this, that what is our contribution? How are we exemplifying everything that we keep learning on a day-to-day basis? Mashallah, we keep organizing such beautiful taqreers, such majales, all of these activities. And every activity, if we take a small takeaway message, and then not just listen to the message, but also try seeing whether I'm able to kind of implement that in my day-to-day life and living. Am I being a better person? Am I being a kinder person? Am I being polite? Am I being respectful? Am I taking care of my anger? Am I just reacting, or am I just responding? So if we take that kind of a lesson and try inculcating in our day-to-day life and our living, I think that would be a very humble contribution from our side. And because of, again, a little soreness of throat, I may not be able to speak a lot. But my sincere gratitude to all the organizers for having invited me. And this is commendable work that all of you are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sabine, for your advice, really helpful advice. And you are right. We should contribute. This is only the way our behavior is, the way we contribute to the society. So now we move ahead. I would like to introduce Firdaus Jahan. She is an independent consultant. She's an engineer also, I just came to know. And she does career counseling as well. So Firdaus Jahan.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Fatima wa biha wa baliya baniha. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to all the respected speakers and all the viewers and listeners. Okay, first of all, I would like to thank Almighty Allah for giving me this opportunity. And I would like to congratulate all the Iranians and the organizers for the Islamic Revolution's anniversary and your wonderful work. And inshallah, you'll do much better in future also. Okay, before I would jump to the main point, I would like to answer some questions which are needed to be answered actually. Technologically and scientifically, we have advanced so much, but moral standards have gone down. Crime rates have increased tremendously. A large part of the population is disgusted with the chaos all around the world. Depression is rising in youngsters. Why do these rich people look for intoxicants to shrug off their worries? Instead of answering this why behind it, the West keeps giving new ways of seduction. Okay, you are fed up with this real world? Make your own imaginative world with augmented reality, metaverse, etc. These are nothing but new age intoxicants. We behave the way these leading corporations want us to be. They have actually hijacked our thought process. Your enemy knows you better than you know yourself. They want an immoral, godless society, and they do it by casting doubt whether any God exists or not. Because of this lack of accountability factor between people and God, this world has become a mess. There is a huge moral gap between education and the personal conduct, and this can only be fulfilled with religious philosophy. The human mind is the most wonderful creation of the God. The potential is limitless. And that is why Allah says in Quran, the worst of the beasts in the sight of Allah are the deaf, the dumb, and who do not reason. Yes, Islam is a religion of reasoning. Allah doesn't want blind followers, but people with sight, intelligence, people with an active conscience. Islam focuses on personal development, which actually builds up the society automatically. It's all about the moral values, be it the road we walk on, be it the air we inhale, the water, the people around us, everything encompasses into the code of conduct. I would say that Islam is the most sustainable code of conduct. Western thinkers believe that the family problems arose from the absence of equality. In fact, the root cause is the absence of moral teachings. Women's exploitation at workplaces is common. They are being forced to compromise in order to reach higher levels. Are they truly free as claimed in media? Why do we try to equate two differently created beings, physically, biologically, and psychologically? They are different. We are being actually fooled in the name of equality. The Western equality actually translates to identical rights. That means if a man drinks 10 glasses of water per day, then the woman should also drink 10 glasses of water per day, irrespective of her needs, requirements, or capacity to intake. This is nonsensical. Whereas Islamic equality is being same in value. That means both men and women need water to survive, but in their right proportions. Scientists believe that 40 to 60% of intelligence is hereditary. A few years back, the Psychology Spot published a research suggesting that this 40 to 60% hereditary intelligence genes are actually located on the X chromosome, that is the female chromosomes we received from our mothers. Yes, it is our mothers who transferred their intelligence to us. Someone asked Imam Ali, how do we provide the right upbringing to our kids? He replied, 20 years before their birth. Yes, choose the right mother for your kids. Now you know why enemies of God seduce women to disobey him. You corrupt a woman, then the whole generation will fall in the same line. The work becomes easier. Western thinkers blame Islam for oppressing women, whereas in Quran, Allah Ta'ala has set two women example for all the believing men and women to be followed. Who are they? One is the daughter of a prophet and a mother of a prophet, right? That is the lady Maryam Salamullah Alaiha, and the other is the wife of Pharaoh, the Pharaoh, the enemy of Allah. Imagine the two contrasting circumstances. That means the focus is on personal conduct, not the association with the prophet or a non-prophet. Okay. If these women are said to be as role model by Allah, then who could be a better role model to be followed than the lady Fatima Zahra Salamullah Alaiha, who is the leader of all women. And I would say that she is nothing but the female version of the prophet himself. I would like to highlight only a few lessons I learned from her. I would say that she was the epitome of patience, purity, knowledge, and piety. She was bestowed with these qualities by Allah, and partly she received this intelligence from her mother, Lady Khadijatul Kubra Salamullah Alaiha. Her mother herself was the role model of her time. She set the highest moral standard in those ignorance time, and even before the declaration of the prophethood. That is immensely effective. The first key to success, which Lady Zahra herself has told about, is the patience. Patience is the key to success in both the worlds. Once her father advised her not to seek anything from her husband that he can't fulfill. And she practiced it in such a way that even in the most difficult time of her life, that is her end days, she didn't say even Ya Ali Adhikni, which we all say every day. Imagine the level of her patience. She knew he can't, so she never said it to her. Why? She sacrificed her comfort and her short-term gains for the success of the hereafter. The second is be down to earth. With popularity, we become famous. We often become haughty, proud, and arrogant. She was the daughter of a leader, she was the wife of a leader, and she was the mother of leaders. Yet she lived a simple, humble life. So here's the lesson that if you want to become a leader, you have to be very simple. Why? Because the poorest of the society can approach you with ease. And I would say that she was a great reformer. Yes. If she had not claimed the right over Fadak, no woman would have ever gotten the due rights ever. If you study her khutbah Fadak, she taught them the concept of Tawheed once again. And then she made it clear why certain acts are prohibited in Islam and others are not. For example, alcohol is prohibited because it's an exaltation from atrocity. In reality, she taught those illiterate, ill-mannered people how to govern their subject, and she actually taught them how to establish a court of law. She actually saved all the generations to come after her for us. Third, acquire knowledge. She was equal in knowledge with the Prophet and the Imam. She would hardly go out of the house, yet she was fully aware of what was going outside the world. Today, this has become much easier in the age of the internet for us. Compassion. She used to cook food herself for hundreds of poor living in that time. Have you ever seen the daughter of any leader, any king, to cook for the food for the poor for herself? That's how she felt the pain of those people. She even provided alternate days off, as our other learned speakers have talked about her characteristics. So I would summarize it that she was the true ambassador of Allah on earth. And imagine, if she was so merciful, then how merciful is the God she worshipped? Women are generally perceived as weak physically and emotionally, yet she showed us how to remain prudent in the face of oppression. She was humiliated like no one else, yet she stood up and remained resilient. This strength comes with piety. Don't be dejected by any circumstances when you know that God is with you. She was the strength of the leader of all prophets, leader of all mu'mineen. Her daughter imitated her completely. Lady Zainab Salamullah alaiha too became the strength of the Imam of that time. Though they were mistreated like no one else, yet didn't use any abusive words. She stood up against tyranny, exposed their hypocrisy, but the eloquence of language was maintained. Yes, we often become bitter with bitter experiences, but that does not allow us to be rash if we are wrong. And we hardly see this balance. Imagine their control over their hearts and mind. Then the next is the forbearance. Despite so many ups and downs, she didn't show any sluggishness. She remained nimble-minded ever, was always the first to share the prophetic struggle, imitate the best. I think this is the very key lesson for all the mothers. She used to rhyme beautiful lullabies for her children. To Imam Hassan, she used to say, Ishba abaka ya Hassan, wakhla anil haqqi arrasan, wabut ilahan zalminan, walatu ali zalihan. Be like your father, so you would untie the truth, tied in ropes. Worship the one who deserves. Don't accompany oppressors. And to Imam Hassan, she used to say, be like my father, not like yours, as if she really identified their roles early in the age. We need to observe our kids as well, even in infancy, identify their strength, their weaknesses. I think it's a great way to inculcate moral lessons. And I would like to say, people say it's very hard to follow her ways. She doesn't expect us to totally imitate her. But we should not be overpowered by the material gains. That is what is required in today's time. And in the end, I would like to have your attention to one of her supplications, dua, how to be a mu'min and mu'mina. She says, Allah, make me content on the sustenance that you give me. Being content is a blessing. You see, so many rich people can't even sleep. And then she says, as long as you keep me alive, do so in good health. A good health is also a moral value. Okay. Then she says, conceal my flaws. Yes, you have to conceal others' flaws so that Allah may conceal yours. And when I die, have mercy on me and forgive my sins. Forgive others so God may forgive you. Then she says, oh God, don't be make involved in the efforts of the sustenance that is not fixed for me, and make easy what you have destined for me. Yes, I should not waste my time in that which I'm not going to get. Make me sensible enough to spend my time wisely. God, my parents, and whoever has done favor upon me, recompense all them with the best recompense. Return the favor with the better. That is what the moral lessons we need to learn from her prayers. Then she says, and don't which you have taken upon yourself. So whatever matters is in Allah's hand. We should not be concerned or worry about those things. Don't chastise me while I seek forgiveness, and don't deprive me while I am asking. Please accept others' apology when they apologize, and do not return anybody when comes to your door. Okay, God, humiliate me in my own views. What is she saying? Make me realize my faults so that I realize your greatness, but make your honor great in my view. So when you realize your faults, and when you look at Allah, it's still being defective. He has been so merciful to us. So this is to lead a humble life. And she says in the end, give me good sense, tawfiq, for obedience to act according to your will, and to refrain from that in which lies your displeasure, O most merciful of the merciful ones. Yes, Allah is great. He wants us to be great as well. And in the end, I would like to quote Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini rahmatullah alayhi. We need capable women who raise culture and science with one hand and the wheel and chadar with another. Yes, that is what a Muslim woman or Mu'min woman and a general woman should be. Be present everywhere in order to know what's going on around the world, not to get carried away. Hold yourself accountable before Allah holds you too. According to the hadith of Masamin, Antichrist or the Dajjal's best weapon would be the immoral woman. Then Imam's best weapon should be the Mu'mina woman. Why not? A Mu'mina woman is not an ordinary woman. She is an exceptional one. She can amaze the intellectuals with her capabilities. Realize your worth, the potential to change society. May Allah give us tawfiq to achieve what He likes to be destined for us. And because already a lot of points have been discussed, which I thought, so I skipped all those points. And because of the lack of the time also, I would like to end my part here. Thank you so much for your patience and attention. May Allah keep you all in the best of health. Ma'as-salama.
Thank you, Firdaus. Thank you so much for your valuable time and your lovely speech. Now, I would like to introduce Professor Hakimeh Saghaye Birla. I'm really honored. She is a professor of specialized Department of Islamic Revolution at Tehran University. Professor Hakimeh Saghaye Biria.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. Let me first say salam to all the participants in this webinar. We are gathered here to talk about the role of the Muslim woman in facing and overcoming the cultural challenges of the day. And of course, the webinar is put together under the holy name of Hzt Zahra Salamullah alayha. So let me begin with the hadith, a saying from Our Lady Fatema Salamullah alayha, where she says, I love from your world, I love three things from your world. I love the only things that I really like from your world are three. and she enumerates them. One, looking at the holy face of the Messenger of Allah. 2, reading the Quran. And 3, doing infaq or giving in the way of Allah. In other words, what she likes and makes her pleased from this world is basically summarized in her relationship with the guardian of, that is appointed from Allah, Rasulullah, the relationship that she has with Allah, the reading of the Quran, and thirdly, the relationship that she has with the servants of Allah, which is summarized in the idea of infaq, of giving whatever she had in the way of Allah. So this is the role model that we have for the ideal woman. This is our role model. And today I want to give a brief talk about what role Muslim women can can have in this world, where women are basically pushed away from this kind of model. Women are pushed away from this spiritual model, from this model that is, that circles around a life that is basically defined by such, 3 kinds of relationships with Allah, with the leader appointed by Allah, and with the people. Today, when you look around, you see that women are as oppressed as they have been in history. And the oppression that women face today is basically a modern oppression, an oppression that has been brought about by the dominance of the Western culture over the world. And if I want to refer to one of the phrases that our leader Ayatollah Khamenei has in this regard, the West is in a deep state of ignorance with regard to the way they look at women and the way they behave towards women. And unfortunately, what happens is that because of the dominance, the political and cultural and economic dominance that the West has had over the past 500 years, because of colonialism, and then because of the neo-colonial dominance that it has had over the world, this type of ignorance has been, the West has attempted to import it to other cultures. So we are facing a situation where women are being oppressed. And if I want to just talk a little bit about this type of oppression, which I would call modern jahiliyyah, to use the words of Imam Khamenei with regard to women, a modern type of ignorance and misguidance with regard to how women are looked at. It is a culture that is obsessed with the appearance of women. It is a culture that objectifies women's bodies. It is a culture that sexualizes women's bodies. And it has become an epidemic. It has become something that is, that has become a sickness in not only in the West, but also all around the world, because of this cultural imperialism that is going on. In a capitalist culture, the sexualization of women is the most important sickness that we have to talk about. How the West looks at women, how the Western culture basically looks at women. If I want to use the words of an American psychologist, Professor Rena Engel, who has written a book by the title of Beauty Sickness, Professor Engel says that Western societies suffer from a cultural obsession with women's appearance, an obsession that focuses on women's appearance over anything else they might do or say or be. So this is what we call the objectification of women, the sexualization of women. What is most important is how women look, and that has to be in a sexualizing manner. In such a culture, women are required to compete in a lifetime marathon to achieve an unattainable sexualizing standard of beauty, something that they never reach. They, women are pushed to run after such a standard of beauty, something that has, as I told you, as I said, has been, exported all around the world, that something that they never reach. So the first problem is at the level of society. In this culture, women become beauty sick. The sickness starts as soon as young girls are taught that their primary form of currency in this world involves being pleasing to the eyes of others. Now, look at this type of standard and then compare it with the Islamic standard, which says that when you come to society, you have to have a standard of, a specific type of dress code. You have to have a specific type of, manners with regard to talking, with regard to being in contact with the opposite gender. This is in complete contrast, in complete opposition to the Islamic standard. In this culture, women become beauty sick. The sickness starts as soon as young girls are taught that their primary form of currency in this world involves being pleasing to the eyes of others. So women's emotional energy gets so bound up with what they see in the mirrors, and it becomes harder for them to see other aspects of their lives. It keeps women facing the mirror instead of facing the world. This is what Dr. Brenna Engel says about this type of sickness. And of course, to use the words of another Western education specialist, Dr. Jean Kilbourne, she says women's bodies are routinely used to sell every imaginable kind of product, from chainsaws to chewing gum. She is talking about how women are looked at in the advertising industry. So women become objects, their bodies become objects for the use of the capitalist society, are used for profit. And this becomes a cultural obsession, something that wherever you look, you see this type of understanding of women's worth. The society becomes beauty sick. And but if I want to use another phrase, Dr. Jean Kilbourne says the society is killing us softly. The society is killing women. Advertising industry is killing women softly. It is not just a mere sickness of beauty. It is actually something that is, a severe type of sickness that is going to kill at the end. So when you look at the studies that have been done in this regard, in this type of society, women in the end self-objectify their bodies. That is, they take such an understanding of their self, of their worth, they internalize this type of look at women. So we become, society and women become sick with self-objectification, and all kinds of psychological consequences follow. There have been studies that show this type of look at your own worth puts you in danger of depression, puts you in danger of all kinds of psychological problems, anorexia, and different things that happen. Why? Because women start to think of themselves as things to be looked at. Self-objectification, in simplest terms, is what happens when you take that perspective on yourself. You start to see yourself as just things to be looked at. But more importantly, you don't just think of your body in terms of how it looks, but you also fail to think of your body in terms of what it does. You become beauty sick. These are again words from the book Beauty Sickness by Dr. Rene Engel. But most importantly, what happens is that women who become beauty sick, they don't have the energy to basically think about more important things. Beauty sickness matters in part because it hurts. As I told you, there have been studies that shows beauty sickness or self-objectification is related to all kinds of psychological problems, and of course physical problems. But even more important, it matters because it's hard to change the world when you're so busy trying to change your body, your skin, your hair, and your clothes. Dr. Engel says, leaving the world in better shape than how you found it is more important than the shape of your body. Now, so this is what we are facing in today's world. A culture that obsessively is concerned about women's appearance, obsessively objectifies women, obsessively sexualizes women, and tries to say that this is the best, this is the right way to look at women. You see that Western powers are trying to basically export such a way of looking at women to other countries, and they basically when they look at Islam and they look at, for example, the issue of hijab, they say that Islam is oppressing women. Why? Because it is imposing a standard on women that is different from what I just explained. Now, one thing that we have to understand is, if we want to compare this way of looking, the Western way of looking at women, with the Islamic way, we find that there is another problem. The problem is when you become beauty sick, when you self-objectify, when you are trapped in a society that obsessively sexualizes women, and there are so many tools for that nowadays. The Instagram, you have all these different types of tools that actually propels this type of looking at yourself. Islamically, when you look at that, it puts you in danger of losing the capacity for spirituality as well, for growth, for spiritual growth, for being an active Muslim, for being a concerned Muslim. When you look at the ayat of Quran with regard to how Islam looks at women, you come to an ayah in Surah Ahzab, إِنَّ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَالْمُسْلِمَاتِ. There is no difference between men and women in Islam with regard to gaining spirituality, with regard to actually having all the different virtues, with regard to being active in society, with regard to serving the servants of Allah and serving Allah. إِنَّ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَالْمُسْلِمَاتِ. Muslimin, Muslimat. وَالْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ. Believers and the lady believers. وَالْقَانِتِينَ وَالْقَانِتَاتِ. وَالصَّادِقِينَ وَالصَّادِقَاتِ. وَالصَّابِرِينَ وَالصَّابِرَاتِ. The truthful, both men and women. The patient, both men and women. وَالْخَاشِعِينَ وَالْخَاشِعَاتِ. وَالْمُتَصَدِّقِينَ وَالْمُتَصَدِّقَاتِ. Those paying sadaqah, both men and women. وَالصَّائِمِينَ وَالصَّائِمَاتِ. Those who fast, both men and women. وَالْحَافِظِينَ فُرُوجَهُمْ وَالْحَافِظَاتِ. Those who are chaste and have chastity with regard to their sexual relations, both men and women. وَالذَّاكِرِينَ لِلَّهِ كَثِيرًا وَالذَّاكِرَاتِ. And in the end, it talks about those who have the capacity to remember Allah, both men and women. أَعَدَّ اللَّهَ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةً وَأَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. Allah has prepared for them a great measure of forgiveness and reward. Now, when you look at this ayah, you see that there are stages that you have to move from one stage to another until you reach the stage that you can become a person who remembers Allah a lot and is always at the service of Allah. Now, when you self-objectify, when you become sick with these types of obsession with your appearance, you lose the capacity to actually, be such a human being that moves from Islam to Iman to all these different things that we said, and then in the end becomes someone who remembers Allah a lot. And the whole life, the whole being of that person becomes the remembrance of Allah. So this is another, I think this is the most important aspect of this, the sickness that is actually taking over the world. It has become an epidemic all around the world. So what is the role of a Muslim woman facing this type of challenge in the world? First of all, we have to be vigilant and we have to be active in correcting our own lifestyle. But not only that, we have to be active and vigilant in communicating to the world the meaning of the lifestyle that Islam has proposed, that is at complete odds with this lifestyle of self-objectification and self-sexualization, this beauty sickness. And this is upon us in all societies. And of course, it is a real jihad for us to do this, to communicate to the world that what is the meaning of hijab? What is the meaning of this holistic system that Islam has given us? That is not just a dress code. That is not something that we choose, that to dress in this way or another. But it is a system. It is a holistic system that safeguards society from becoming sick with this type of sickness, looking at human beings as things. This is the gist of the sickness that the West is having and is trying with all its might to perpetuate around the world, that has become a true epidemic. Islam has the answer to overcoming this type of sickness, for overcoming this type of epidemic. So we have to be active, we have to be proactive, not passive. We are not just exercising a choice in dress code. In India, we have heard in news that unfortunately in some colleges, our girls are having difficulty practicing hijab. Yes, they have to be vigilant and strong in asking for their right to have a choice in how they dress, to practice Islam. But more than that, they have to be vigilant in giving and communicating the message of Islam in this regard. We have to use every opportunity, and this is the best opportunity that has been given to us, to give the message to the world that Islam has a system that wants the world, wants society to look at women not as things, not as objects, but wants to look at women as human beings. Islam wants men and women in society to work side by side, but in a healthy environment. So this is something that we have to communicate to the world. And we have to use all the opportunities that we have in order to, tell the world that Islam's system is the most progressive. That actually, if we want to overcome the situation that has, that is upon us today, this cultural obsession with, women's appearance, with sexualization of women, we have to understand Islam's way of looking at women, Islam's progressive system of, how men and women should work side by side in society, and how we can overcome this sickness of sexualization, of self-sexualization, of self-objectification. And I think one of the most important things that we have to remember is that this cannot be done alone. We have to put our energies together. We have to try to overcome this challenge together. And it needs networking. It needs, women scientists, women educators, and of course, as politicians, writers, in every capacity that we are, we have to put our energies together and try to raise our voice, basically. Try to let the world know what Islam has to offer for the world to overcome this challenge. And of course, the role model of Lady Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha should be introduced to the world. The world should know that there is such a role model, and that Muslims look at this lady as the peak of spirituality, of the peak of service to humanity, of the peak of relationship with Allah. So again, let me finish my talk with the hadith that Bibi Fatima Salamullah alayha had, that she said that I am pleased with three things from your world: looking at the face of Rasulullah, looking at reading the Quran, and giving in the way of Allah, infaq. So this is what Islam offers us. If we accept and we follow the holistic system that Islam has for us with regard to how we look at ourselves and how we look at society, that we become human beings whose most important concerns are the relationship with God, the relationship with the leader appointed from God, and the relationship with the people, serving the servants of God. May Allah bless us with the energy, with the understanding, with the vigilance to be able not only to practice this system that Islam has offered us, but also to make it known to the world and to try to bring the world out of this sickness that has become an epidemic, the objectification of women. Thank you very much. I leave you in Allah's care.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your meaningful speech. Unfortunately, today also it is man's world, but we women should definitely contribute in the society with the moral value, moral lessons, what Janabi Seerah has given us. It is our duty. As we conclude, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the organizers for making this webinar possible and for all the participants. Thank you all for attending. I'm sure we have a lot to take away from each of the presentations. I wish everyone all the best. Take care and be safe. Salam.
Wa alaikum salam, and thank you so much. Wonderful.
Thank you. It was lovely hearing everyone.
Good. Good
Assalam.
initiative.